Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dr. Angie Wilson-Quayle, and it's a great pleasure to be introducing my next guest, Dr. Ingrid Honkala, who had a near-death experience around the age of 3, and her story is very compelling. This introduction was recorded after the interview. Thank you.
Oh, it's such an honor, such a blessing to be here with you guys today. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for coming. This is just amazing. So my near-death experience happened when I was very young. I was close to 3 years old when I fell into a tank of frigid water. And this experience just completely changed the course of my whole life here. So what happened is that at the time, both my parents worked and they would leave us at the care of a maid. And she was a young lady that really didn't pay much attention to us when my parents were not around. But all right, they had to just go work, and one morning early they left, and my oldest sister at the time, she was almost 4, and we had another sister that was 1 year old. So when my parents left, my oldest sister and I realized that, oh, the lady went back to her room. Because I say her room because in Colombia it was part of the culture at the time that the lady, a maid, will leave. She will stay in the family, in the house with the family. Colombia at the time was a country at war, and it was kind of safer for these young ladies to stay in the cities with the families. Of course, they get paid and everything, but that was the way things were back then. So she lived with us in the house. She went back to her room, and my oldest sister and I were like, oh, no one is looking. Let's go play in the patio. So in the house, there was a patio, and in a corner in this patio, there was a tank. And the purpose of this tank was for collecting water for hand washing clothes. Back then, we didn't have a washing machine. So next to the tank, there was a flat surface where the clothes could be scrubbed there. So we found a couple of balls in the patio, and we look at the tank, and just children, oh, let's play across the tank. Not thinking about any danger, about anything. Let's just have fun. And this tank was big, guys. It held about 900 gallons of water. So we had to grab stools and climb the walls of the tank. And my sister sat on the flat surface, thinking, oh, this is more comfortable, no problem. But me, I had to go to the other side, and there was a thin edge. I climbed these walls, and I bended my knees, and I was leaning very precariously in this tank. But like I said, it was like, let's just have fun. Then my sister had the ball, and then she threw the ball, but she didn't apply enough force. And yeah, the ball fell, and it was floating on top of the water, and I just thought I could grab it. So I leaned forward, and when I tried to grab this ball, it rolled on the surface of the water, and then, of course, I lost my balance and fell in the water. Wow, guys, the first feeling when falling into this water was the sense of like this water being frigid cold. Because I always have to mention that people have the misconception that because I was born in Colombia, I come from a hot weather country. But Bogota is a city high up in the Andes. And the temperature up there very early in the morning could be around 30, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So this water was frigid cold. So when I fell there, it was this sense of like the shock of the freezing water, the frigid water, and the sense that I could not breathe, like my chest had imploded. And up to that date, I never been in a pool. We didn't have a bathtub. So I didn't know that if you had your head underwater, you cannot breathe. Then imagine this impact when I don't know why I cannot breathe. And I started to feel this sense of absolute horror. And I just tried to get up, but I didn't know how to swim. Like I said, I've never been underwater. And then this was the moment in which I went from this state of absolute terror, guys. And in just a blink like that, absolute peace, calmness. Oh, there was no need to fight. There was no need to breathe. There was no need to escape from this tank. I didn't know what happened, but I'm just in the state of absolute well-being. And this is when I always like to bring all the contrast that made this experience so impossible to forget, because there was just many things happen. One of the things is that because this tank was completely made out of cement, it was a big tank and it had a roof on top, so it was a very dark area. So when I fell in the tank, the last thing I saw with my eyes open was darkness. The space was dark. And then the moment I am in this state now of, oh, absolute bliss, I see a light coming from below. And it was like the light of a candle, just ding, had been lit, and now there was light. It was soft light that was able to illuminate the whole watery surrounding, and I'm like, oh, there's light. And then it comes the other contrast, and it was that I live in a house that was very noisy. We have my sister, the dogs, birds, the cousins. And the other thing was, besides all that, is when I was in the water and I'm drowning, in that moment of horror, I could hear my heart beating in my chest. I have the head underwater and I could hear how my heart was beating loud. Boom, 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 boom. And when I went to the state of peace, that stopped. There was no more noise. And it's when I experienced what I call the silence behind the silence. State of absolute profound peace. And let me tell you, I crave this silence for the rest of my life. Later in my life, I will go to closets, I will go to chapels, wherever it was. I wanted to find that state of profound silence. But then, yeah, going back to that moment, now I am in this, wow, everything feels so incredibly well. This beautiful silence, this light, and then suddenly I started to see bubbles that were appearing, like these bubbles were in the water and the bubbles were surrounded by light. And imagine just the childlike mind, and I'm like, I started to chase these bubbles. This is so cool. And when I turned around chasing these bubbles, I saw a body. And the body was suspended in the water. And that's when I had the realization, that is my body. But that's incredible because I had that awareness, the knowing that the body that was there floating was my body. And I looked at the body, and it's when it came the other incredible realization and the other contrast. And it was that I was born as a very sick child. And I spent the first almost 3 years of my life feeling very unwell. I can tell you guys, I didn't even know the difference. I didn't even know how it was to feel well because I was sick for almost 3 years. So imagine now I am in this state of, oh gosh, I feel so incredibly well. So what do you think when I saw that body? I'm like, oh no, I'm not going back there. And I just turned around, and I knew at that moment I could make that decision of leaving this body behind. And all these guys just, I felt it was the sense that this was familiar, that I already have left, just to say, other shells behind, other bodies behind, that this was not something new. So I knew that, oh, I can do this. And I turned around. And the moment I turned around, and I started to see flowers that were blooming from nowhere. It was the most amazing thing. Wow. And now I was picked up by these flowers. And I put the analogy that it was the sense that I am being like brought back to the womb, where you don't have to do absolutely anything. You're just being done. So there was nothing to do, no place to go, no desire, nothing. It was just like, oh, and you're just in a moment of absolute relaxing there. And when I am experiencing all these bliss in just a flash, just like that, boom, I appear in the maid's room. And I am looking at her from above, like if I'm floating in the ceiling, and I'm like, oh, that's Maria. And these guys is so clear, so vivid in my mind, that I can even remember the soap opera she was listening in the radio. But she was completely unaware of what was happening to me. So at that moment, I just looked at her, and again, in just a flash, just like that, I appeared in my mom's path. And we didn't have a car. She didn't have a car at the time, and she had to cross all this neighborhood to be able to get to her bus stop. And then she was close to, it was about 10 minutes walk. So she was close to her bus stop when I appeared there. Again, looking at her from above, and I'm like, oh, that's Mom. And the moment I said this, my mom stopped. She did not hesitate. She did not give another step. She stopped, and she's like, oh. She knew something was happening at home, happening with one of her babies. And she turned around and started to run back home. I looked at her, and I'm like, oh. But at that moment, I got distracted by the realization that wherever I put my mind, I could go. So I saw a dog at the end of the street, and boop, I was there. Oh, I saw something else, oh, I was there. So I started to play a game of going places. So for me, time and space, this whole thing just vanished in the sense I knew it. And then I was having fun doing all this when, again, just like that, in just a second, I appeared in a realm that was made of pure, bright, intense, shiny light. Oh, guys, at that moment, it was the first time in the 3 years of my life that I felt that I was home. It was the sense of, oh, I'm back home. So again, I'm saying I am back home. It was the sense of familiarity. Oh, I just miss home. I wanted to be home. And although I didn't see or hear anyone, it was the sense that I was being welcomed. Like when you come home, you open the, oh, it feels so good to be home. It felt warm, it felt cozy, it felt inviting. And again, it was the sense of no time, because to me, it was like if I just had left in the morning to go to school, to say something, and I'm just being back in the afternoon. So not even 3 years had passed at that point. And then this was amazing, because although I saw my body suspended in the water, up to this point, I didn't have the awareness, the realization that that was not really me, that was not who I was. I didn't have the sense yet, yeah, I'm not that persona. And this is when I had that realization, I am not that. I am a being of light. So I realized myself as a being of light. And it's when I started to feel that I was kind of like just dissolving and becoming one with the whole. And this kept going because after that, because up to that point I was still having like a sense of self, but that even went away when I just went to this state that I name a state of like non-self, or the state of nothingness. Some people is afraid about me saying nothingness, but is that a space where, why I say nothingness? Because there's nothing I knew. There was no concept, no meaning, no sound, no perception, no, it was, when people ask me what nothing means, I say the moment I tell you what is, it becomes something. So I just say, the only thing I can say is this state of absolute presence and pure consciousness. And I am immersed in his presence. When my mom finally arrived home, and this is the other amazing thing, she knew exactly where to go. And she directed herself to the back of the house. And my sister was still in that flat surface trying to help me. And later in life, I learned the purpose of all these experiences, all the symbology in my near death. And I learned that actually the purpose of my sister was to show my mom, Ingrid is there for sure. So my mom just went into the water. She got my body. She said that I was like a raggedy doll, no pulse, no breathing, nothing. And incredibly, my mom was trained CPR. She worked with children. She knew what to do. And then she started to work with me, with my body. But at that moment, like I said to you guys, I was in this state which I was already completely separated from this physical reality. I didn't feel nothing. I didn't sense nothing. I didn't even have at this point any sense of Ingrid. It was gone. But again, like in this experience, in just a flash, I started to feel that I was falling from the tallest building in the world. And it was this sense of like, oh no, there's nothing I could do to stop this. In my case, nobody told me you have to go back. None of that, it just happened. And I'm being pulled back and back in the body. And then I felt like, whoa, after this fall, I knew I was back because all the feelings of discomfort and pain and coldness and the lack of freedom were back. And oh gosh, guys, I was not a happy child. I did not want this. I did not want to be back. I was very upset. And things went really difficult after that for us because I just came back with an awareness I did not have before. And it's amazing because we would say, oh, 3 years old, but no, I mean, I already, even at that age, knew the difference. I would look at myself and say, I am not this child. I am not this child. And I would look at my parents, I would say, you're not just my parents. I didn't feel them as my parents. I felt them as my equal because I experienced oneness. The other thing, I would look at all the children and I will be like, what is happening with these people? They don't know anything. So I couldn't relate with other children. I couldn't relate with other people. I felt like, what is going on with all these people? Because I not just have this awareness, but I came back with abilities. So right after my near day, I'm telling you guys, I'm just about to be 3 years old. And not long after, I could read and write. I could resolve mathematical problems. I could put together complex puzzles. So it was like, to me, it was the sense that I am not learning anything. I'm just remembering. So imagine this for my parents, for my mom, there was at the time no way to explain what was happening with this child. And my parents were young, and like I mentioned to you at the beginning, Colombia was a country at war. So with everything that was happening, my parents were trying to do the best they could with this situation. Because the other thing, I will go to the mirror and I will look at myself and I will cry, and I would just say, I am not this person. I am not this name. I don't want to be here. So my poor mom had to deal with this child that now it was like, this is just, what do we do with this child? That now this is amazing, because it's when I said that the help that we need, the help that I needed came to me in the most incredible, remarkable way. And it's what I needed at the time. And what happened was that right after my near-death experience, I also started to have what we know today as out-of-body experiences. So what happened for me is that the door never closed. Like I said to you guys, I came back with awareness. I came back with the clarity. By 3, I already knew I am an eternal being. So I started to, when I went to bed, I started to go places. And it was just the sense of changes in colors and vibrations and movements, things I have never experienced in this physical realm. And I will be back in that realm of the light. Oh gosh, if I wanted that, that felt good. So what happened is that the way I just became calmer is because I would just go asleep. And at the time, my parents, of course, fired this lady. They hire a new one. But again, hey, if I'm a child that is sleeping and the lady doesn't have to do much, taking care of this child, let her sleep. So my parents would leave and I would just go asleep because I wanted to be out there. And in one of these journeys, one day I was surrounded by star-like figures. And they were shining in all different colors. I am like, oh, wow, this was incredible. So now I really wanted to sleep more. And in another one of these journeys, one of these starlight figures, one was shining in bright golden light. It shaped itself into a human form. And it approached me and it touched me. And it's when I said, oh, you are a being of light. Oh, this was magnificent. So now imagine after that, now Ingrid really wanted to sleep all the time. But the thing is that balance needs to happen. And the universe is that compassionate. I mean, everything has to go to balance. So I couldn't be the child that has left forever. So now things had to happen to balance this situation. So one day I was taking a shower. And I'm all relaxed because, you know, those moments when you're calm, relaxed, is when these connections open pretty strongly. And I'm just there taking, I was by now 4 years old. And I'm taking this shower when a blue light, huge light, shining so strongly appeared in the bathroom. And I am like, wow, now the beings of light are here. And up to that moment, because I really did not want to be here, it was really hard because I barely ate. I got sicker than before. I don't know how many doctors, pediatricians. I was sick. I refused to eat. I didn't want to talk to people. There was a point where I didn't even want to be touched. But when this started to happen, and seeing the beings of light and feeling this love, I started to heal. And when they started to appear here, oh, it's when I started to eat and play with my sisters, started to talk. So later in my life, I learned, and this is such an incredible teaching, so beautiful, was that what the beings of light were trying to show me is that home is not a place, it's a state of being. So I didn't need to be up there to feel that love, to feel that well-being, to feel that I here with my environment, my body, my family, I could be in that state. So the beings of light wouldn't say or do anything, but in their company, in their presence, I just felt so well, so loved. So that brought that well-being for me. And then I will tell my parents that I was seeing beings of light. But of course, at that age, just you tell me who's going to believe a child. Oh, you're making this, you're dreaming. Okay, yes. Then, but up to then, it was the way it was. Just I was seeing them, and the moment they started to talk with me was because I threw a big tantrum. Because at that time, I was still very disconnected with my persona, with my name. And one evening they were calling me for dinner and I would just not pay attention. And they kept calling me and I would just ignore. So they came all mad, like, we're calling you for dinner, Ingrid. And I'm like, do not call me like that. That is not my name. So they asked me, so what is your name? And I go back and say, I do not need one. So they had it with me, sent me to bed. I was so upset and I was crying. And it's when I started to hear the voice. And it was so loving, so compassionate, almost like if he was whispering a secret in my ear. And he says, it's going to take time for them to understand that names are not needed in the realm of the light. And they say, like you already know. Oh, so that was amazing because it was the sense like, I know now why I don't need a name. I felt so good. And of course, later I learned like, yeah, in the realm, physical realm, names are needed. All the things we do are needed to fulfill a purpose, but in the realm of the light, there's no conditioning. There's no need of that. And that was so beautiful because, yes, every time I looked at the beings of light, and people ask me over time, what is the name? You recognize names. I say, I never care for a name because for me, not even care for a name for myself. So it was the sense that I didn't have to even have a form, a name, a picture. Even when I was surrounded by beings of light, I knew who was communicating with me without the need of nothing else. So this was absolutely beautiful. But the other thing they said to me was I had to remain quiet because people around me were not going to understand. Not because there was nothing wrong. They say someday everybody will. And they say someday your experiences and the experiences of others will bring everybody to see us, to understand, to have this clarity. But for now, it's better you remain quiet because they don't understand. Imagine for me, at this point, 4 years old, what is not to understand? This is the world I live. This is what I was experiencing. What are you talking about? But very soon I realized that, yeah, if I would talk about it, if I would mention anything, people would even not hear. And you know how we tend to ignore children. Oh, yes, yeah, whatever. So I realized, yeah, I'm alone in this. Nobody understands. But later I joined school, kindergarten, 5 years old. And guess what? Because I was told not to talk, I have to find a way to express. I started to draw. So I was painting beings of light everywhere. Every page I found, it was just my way to express this because I love them. So I would like when you paint your parents, your house, your dog, because that's the love you feel. I was painting beings of light everywhere. And then one day the teacher, she was kind of curious because why is this girl painting these all the time? And she came to me and she's like, are these the sun and the stars? And I said, no, those are my friends, the beings of light. When she made these face and it's when I realized I cannot talk about this. And then she called my parents because according to them, I was having imaginary friends. And they already felt that I was awkward because I didn't relate with other children. I was quiet. I was in my own space. So my mother came and she started to show all the drawings. And it's when they realized that I could also see auras because all my paintings have auras. So she's showing all these to my mom. And then It's when I looked at my mom and I said, because of their conversation, I said, Mom, I wanted someone to believe me. It was the sense of like, Mom, these are the colors that we wear, and these are my friends, the beings of light. My mom turned to me and she looked at me with these mom eyes, pretty much like, shh, silence, because she didn't want me to be in trouble at school. She was also a teacher. She just pretty much don't say a word. And she told the teacher, this is just a phase. We're going to work it, no problem. We left the school and I was so sad because I like, no one believed me. And it's when my mom said to me, I believe you. Oh gosh, imagine this. I'm like, what? And she's like, I believe you because I also see things that others cannot see. And I'm like, what? And she's like, it's when she revealed to me that she could see what is called spirits. I didn't know what this was, but she started to say she could see this since she was a child, and that she learned to be quiet because we grew in a Catholic environment and it was forbidden to talk about this stuff. That just was evil. You couldn't talk about it. So she learned that, and if she would say anything, she would be seriously punished. So she learned never to say a word. So she was worried about me. She said, you cannot talk about this. And at that moment is when I sensed the presence of the beings of light, pretty much like talking through my mom. It's better not to say anything. But the beings of light said to me also, you have asked. And now I knew I have my mom. Because the other thing they said, people will be put in your path to help you and to guide you. So imagine having my mom. Oh, no, I was not alone. But what happened was, is like about a year later, I was now 6 years old, is when I saw the first spirit. I really didn't know that. My mom and I thought we were seeing the same thing. But a year later, when I saw the first spirit, I will not tell the story because it's too long, but I was petrified in fear. I could not move. I could not talk. I was so scared. And when the whole thing passed, I went to my mom and I told her, Mom, the spirits and the beings of light are not the same. I was so scared. And then when he started to ask, what is it that you see then? And then she started to cry and she said, oh gosh, I thought we were seeing the same thing, but I think that what you see are angels. And it's when I said, I don't know, Mom, because they don't look like in the pictures. They don't have wings. Because all we knew was the Catholic teachings. So she's like, it doesn't matter. They have to be your guardian angels, because I just explained they were just light. I felt at home. It felt incredible. And that this experience the spirits gave me fear. Because I already been talking to the beings of life for about 2 years. I asked them, my mom said that you are angels. Is that what you are? And no, first I had another question. I said, my mom, or when I had this realization, I came to them and I said, what is with these dark spirits? I call them dark spirits because they cause me fear. And oh God, guys, is when I got the most amazing answer, because the answer wasn't like, yeah, we're different, those are this and you are this. No, the answer was that you call spirits, you, us, we are all the same. The only difference is the level of awareness you have about who you truly are. Wow, that was deep. And at that moment, I was too young to have that really clear, but I was like, wow, just knowing that we were all the same. It was the sense of like peace. And that someday everybody will get to be that light. Everybody will get to that clarity. Then it's when I asked them, my mom said that you are angels. Is that what you are? And it's when the other beautiful answer came, because they said to me, oh gosh, in the most compassionate, and it's when we know the universe is so giving, they said to me, you can call us whatever you want. Oh, that was just amazing. Okay. So it's just this sense of like the sense of the freedom, you know. So after that, like they said, more people will be put in your path. The next person was my grandmother. She was an incredible woman. And I realized she was so open. She was raised as Catholic too, but she was looking for the way to just be more profound. And she always thought there has to be more than the Catholic teachings. And she went to study Buddhism, Hinduism, all these other philosophies, religions, and she was the one that brought to our house meditation and the explanation of the auras and energy and spirit. Oh, of course, now grandma and I were best friends. And she taught me how to meditate when I was 8 years old. And by the age of 12, she brought me to the first Buddhist temple that I went. And it's when I learned a breathing meditation technique. And it's when I said to the monk at the end of the meeting, the whole meditation, I said, my grandma's a very busy woman. I don't think we can come back. And he said to me, don't worry, because you already have a temple. And I said to him, what do you mean? And he said to me, you are the temple. So you can practice this breathing meditation technique wherever you are, whenever you want. Oh, so when I started to have the concept, I am that temple. So yeah, I grew up after that with my grandmother, learning spirituality, going to these places, and for everything, imagine, especially back in the day, I was the youngest. It was always older people, and I was just a child with this wanting to know everything. But there's the other side of the coin. So this is looking really, oh yeah, this is the beautiful story. But no, the other side of the coin is that, guess what? I was in a school. I have now by then 3 sisters. I grew older, and I started to feel throughout all this journey how different I was from everybody else. How lonely I felt, how sad it felt that no one other than my mom and my grandma could just connect at some level with what I could see, feel, sense. So nobody my age, nobody my nobody could see, understand none of this. So it started to become heavier and heavier as I grew up, as I felt ostracized of school, as I felt different, as I felt I'm not like anyone else. And it's when I started to ask the question, why me? Why this is happening to me? And then when I reached the time of finishing high school, always with barely any friends, and seeing my sisters so beautiful, being chased by now all the boys and all the active life, the parties, and I'm like, I kind of want to be like them, you know? And it's when I make this decision. I was 19 years old. I was sitting in a bus one day, and there was chaos in my family too. My parents were about to divorce. Many things were happening, and I just said, feeling so sad about all of it, I wish none of this was real. And I had an experience like similar to my out-of-body experiences, to my near-death experience, but I was sitting in this bus with my eyes open, aware, and everything dissolved. And I went to the light. In just a flash, and then I came back, and I had 2 very profound questions. I said, how is it possible to forget who we truly are? And when did we stop being one with the whole? But I had the 3rd question, why me? Why this has to happen to me? And at that moment is when, again, the compassion of the universe, it was that answer. They said to me at that moment, in 20 years, you will understand. 20 years? That's kind of a lot for an answer. And at that moment, I felt, what? But the beings of light said to me, this is what you want. You have the choice to become like a teacher, choose this path, or go your other way and do your things that you want to do. And I made my choice. I don't want to teach anything. I want to be like my sisters. I want to be a marine scientist. I want to do these things. So at that moment is when I asked the being so light, pretty much like, can I just go? And people ask me, you're crazy. How could you do something like that? But no, it is understandable for a person that has felt so different for so long. There's a moment where you feel so alien. That guys, at 12 years old, I already was telling my grandmother, I want to die. I don't want to be here. So this is really heavy. And then they were so amazing. It was like, go, do your thing. And like people say, what do you mean you just go like that? But to put an analogy, it's like when you go to college and you leave home. It doesn't mean that you forgot your parents and cut with them forever. No, you just go somewhere else, but you're still connected. You're just a phone call away. So it's like, we were all there still together as a family, but now I was doing my thing. I went to college, had a boyfriend, started to have a life, but guess what is the other thing? What happened? Imagine that for the first 19 years, I was in a room with the lights on. Although there were some sufferings, I had the clarity, I had the light, I had the guidance. I knew what I was. If you're walking in a room with the lights on, guess what? If it's full of furniture, you don't trip because you see. But what happened when I turned off the light, went my own way to experience my own thing? Now I am in a room with no light. And now I'm tripping with all the furniture. And that's how the next 20 years of my life went. A lot of sufferings happened. A lot. I wrote a whole book just bringing to how all these sufferings crossed my path, but for what reason? To reach to that point where I would say, I don't want to be in the dark anymore. Can I just please turn on the light again? So I claimed the light back. And it's when I reached the point in my life, after 20 years, I became a scientist. I was successful with my career. I worked hard. I went to live in a war zone working as a scientist. I mean, a lot of things happening, but it was so many sufferings that 20 years later, I didn't even realize that 20 years have passed. But there was a moment I reached this point where I had enough with life. And again, I went to the point where I want to die. Wow, look, this is repeating again in a different way. And now I wanted to commit suicide. And I reached the point that I went to the dark night of the soul, the point where I want to really take my life. And that was so strong because by that moment I had my little 3-year-old boy that I loved with my entire heart. I think he was the thing keeping me here. But I was so depressed that it was a moment that I thought, what if I take him with me? Imagine, I don't think we can go lower than that. And it's when it was like a thought that crossed my mind, and I said, oh my God, I lost it. What am I thinking? And it's when I claimed the light with my whole heart. And I said, God, I didn't ask God to change the situation. My asking was, God, help me see because I cannot see. Help me see what it's all this for. Guide me to the light. And boom. The next day, just that's the miracle. The miracles are not these, a house, a car. The miracles are sometimes the most simple thing. So the next day I had the absolute clarity. I need help. And I was guided. I mean, the synchronicities were amazing, guys. In the same day, 3 different people, 3 different things named me the same psychologist. And I'm like, okay, I get it. This is a sign. And I followed it. I went to the person. This guy was incredible. He was an amazing psychologist, very spiritual. Ooh, talking to this person, I started to feel, wow, yes, this was the person. And then there was a moment that he asked me to write all my sufferings. And I said, I'm a scientist, I don't write sufferings, but oh well. I started to write this thing. And then when he read the list, he said, oh my God, I have never seen in my 37 years of practice someone that has suffered this much and is mentally stable. I was in shock because I was like, I never felt I was the one that suffered the most or anything. But wow, this guy, and it's when this question came back, and I said to him, why me? Why this is happening to me? And he looked at me and he gave me the most amazing answer. This was the switch I needed to turn the light back on. It was the most simple thing again. He said, why not? What? And then it's when I realized that he had been listening. This is the power of listening, when we listen to others and others listen to us. Because I realized that he had been listening. Because he wasn't taking notes, nothing. We've been talking for 1 year. And at this moment, he started to say, thanks to this, you're done this. Thanks to this, you're done that. Thanks to this, and thanks to that, you're done, and blah. And I'm like, wow, all my neurons started to fire up. And I started to recognize purpose behind all my sufferings, behind all my experiences. And it's when I went to that space of, wow, nothing has happened to me. It happened for me. It happened for me to be at this moment of awareness. Like I said, to claim the light back. And then at that moment is when I also discovered the true meaning of forgiveness. That forgiveness wasn't, there's a few types of forgiveness. The forgiveness of the ego, when we say, yeah, I forgive you, but guess what? I don't forget. That's not forgiveness, that's nothing. This was the moment when I realized, wow, there's nothing to forgive, because nothing ever happened to me. Again, it happened for me. So I went to the space of absolute gratitude. Guess what I did at that moment? I elevated myself. I elevated my vibrational frequency, the connection that I have broken or I have cut years ago, whoop, like a plug, came back. So I was now left this office. I am in my car. And guys, it's when an experience I had, that's why I know 20 years have passed. Similar experience I had in the bus, I had in the car. Is when I sensed that the presence of God, source, ultimate reality, consciousness was absolutely everything. It was nothing that wasn't it. I was in the state of absolute bliss. And then at that moment, the two questions I have asked 20 years earlier were answered. And it's when I realized, whoa, 20 years, again, like time didn't pass. You remember I asked, when did we stop being one, and how is it possible to forget who we truly are? And the answer just came. It says, one never stopped being one. One never left the source. One just became distracted and seemingly forgot. And yes, I realized at that moment how easy it was to become distracted and forget. Look, at all those years I have forget my connection and made all my sufferings myself. And it's also when I realized I have been trapped in the chapter of Ingrid and poor Ingrid. And I saw like a book, and I was like, oh, a book of 10 million pages, and I've been trapped in the first paragraph of the book. What if I could just open myself and read this whole book, be part of the world? And it's when I started to have the sense I want to give. I want to teach, I'm ready to serve. And the other incredible thing is when I realized that, like I said to you guys, everything had purpose. And it's when I started the connection with the beings of light can fall on back. And it's when I received messages like, nothing in the universe lacked purpose. And if you remember, one of the things that happened when I was 19, and this happens to all of us, is that I could not accept my uniqueness. I rejected it because it was painful, it hurt. I wanted to be like everyone else. And we all know the moment we start comparing with others, suffering starts. And then this is when I finally realized my uniqueness is a gift. And then I started to see myself as something special, like each one of us. The beings of light once said to me, when I said, why me? And they said, because you are special. And I said, what do you mean when you say that I am special? And they say, everybody is special, but not everybody knows it. But there will be the time when everybody will know. And yeah, at that moment I realized that. And then now is when I said to people, I understood the purpose of my uniqueness. And I put the example of the fingers and the hand. Every finger is different, look unique. But what happens if I cut this finger off? By itself, it cannot do anything. So all that uniqueness is with the purpose of working together. It's the uniqueness that encompasses oneness. So that is the power of us being unique. Use it with the purpose of helping each other, growing each other. And this is the other amazing thing. Once I understood that there was purpose in everything, I started to ask important questions. And one of those questions was, of course, why my near-death experience happened when I was so young? Questions like that, simple questions. They said, because you were old enough to remember, but young enough not to be conditioned yet. Look at how important it is that we are a just, clear canvas. That's how the life for me came so clear, and otherwise I would have seen things already like the beings of life. We are what you want us to be, with the eyes of conditioning. I didn't have any, or barely any. Then it came the other question, what was my near-death experience for? And this is the most incredible treasure, and this is where I will end my presentation. And you're going to love this, because they said your near-death experience happened to bring the message of the purpose of connection. And I said, how? Where? Because we don't have it clear. And then they said, remember when you saw your body suspended in the water and you made the decision not to go back to it? Yes. At that moment, you were acting with your egoic mind. The mind that, oh no, I want this for myself. Why I want to go back to that body? Of course not. But who am I thinking about? Me. But there was a universal plan that was different from that. You meant to come back. So see, my decision at that moment wasn't the decision that was going to bring benefit. So what happened at that moment is when, without knowing, I went to look for help. Otherwise, I would not have looked for the maid and for my mom. Then I said, at that moment, I said, okay, so if I went to look for help, why did I stop in the maid's room? She wasn't going to be of any help. And they said, because that's the point. That's what we wanted to show you, contrast. See, that's when I talk about suffering, about pain, about all these challenges, contrast. We have to experience contrast to see the other side. So it's when he said, look what happened when you went to the maid's room. There was not connection. This person could not feel you. This person couldn't sense you. This person, you were right there, a few feet from that bedroom, and she couldn't even know you were drowning. So when there's no connection, they will not feel you. What happened with your mom? 10 minutes away from the house. Unconditional love, true connection is what she felt me. So it didn't matter if I was in another realm, if I was somewhere else. Imagine this was a spiritual realm, physical realm. The beings of light said to me, love doesn't know boundaries. There's no limitations. It's pure connection. My mom could feel me. The person that was the farthest away knew where I was and rescued me, got me out of the tank. So they said this beautiful thing. They said, wait, when there's no connection, where there's no connection, they will let you drown. Where there is no connection, there will be war. And that's what has been happening. They say this was not about competing. This is like the fingers and the hand again. It's about working together. It's about using the gift of your uniqueness all together to build a world of unity. Oneness is not something that has to happen somewhere else. We don't need to die to be in oneness. It's here and now. It's with our own actions, with our own decisions, how I want to be. We're all like part of this big tapestry, guys, where every thread is unique. Each one of us, if you pull a thread out, the tapestry is not complete. But guess what? They are also interwoven. We have to be working all together for this tapestry to be able to exist. So it's when I invite each one of us to recognize the light that we are. The importance, I mean, you cannot finish a puzzle if one piece is missing. So that's how important each one of us is. So the more we recognize how our uniqueness, how important our purpose is to lighten our life and the life of others, then we are supporting the universal plan, which is love, compassion, oneness, caring the one for each other, not competing, not creating war. But I guess sometimes we, like those 20 years for me, we have to go through like all the beating before we realize, please, some light. So that's how I want to end. I invite each one of us to start opening our heart, making that connection come in our mind. Going to that place to realize we are that presence, we are that silence. What if I am that silence, that presence, that love, that compassion for the person next to me? For my wife, my husband, my children, my co-workers, the person in the bank, the person in the, wow. And this is the ripple effect that is going to bring peace to this world. So let's be that light. Now I am open for any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Let's see. Do we have any questions? Because I do have a couple of questions myself. Let's see in the meantime if they come in. So you talked about a dark spirit at one point when you were very little. You started to become aware of spirits and you asked the beings of light. And they said something extraordinary, which is something, and I'm paraphrasing here because I was trying to make some notes. We're all the same, but at different frequencies of awareness or consciousness, something like that?
Yes. They would just say we're all the same. The difference is the level of awareness we have about who we are. So the less awareness we have about who we are, we're acting out of pretty much like we're robots. We're acting just from the place of like, we will go out and do things with no awareness. Just like being angry and not realizing it, being selfish and not realizing it, mistreating others and not realizing it. Not knowing that we are that light, that every little thing we do is affecting absolutely everything, ourselves and our surrounding. So the more we act with awareness, the more we go to that place of realizing, wow, a drop or any drop, any pebble I drop in the water is going to create a ripple if I don't know what I am doing.
Mm-hmm. But was that actually, was that a ghost that you were seeing? Was that actually a human who had transitioned to the other side, but was...
Yeah, it was a spirit in the house. There was a few spirits that live in the house. And that's the other thing. That's explanations I got later in my life. I got even deeper in learning many things throughout the years. But what happened is that these beings, the less you're aware of who you are, your vibrational frequency is lower because you're disconnected. Say that I have a microphone or I have a light, and the light is covered by shades and shades and shades and shades. So you really cannot see the light. And the more you have a microphone, the more you cover it, the less you can hear it. So the frequency of that light or that microphone is so covered that you cannot almost hear. It's a very low frequency. But you start taking all these shades, all these covers, all this stuff. Wow, you now can see the light. So the more you have the realization of who you are, the more self-realize that you are, the more awareness you are, the more gratitude you have, the more you elevate your vibrational frequency. And then now, those are the frequencies that we're feeling. So because I was so elevated, so connected with the beings of light, I was vibrating at a very high frequency. So what happened when I encountered these spirits, they caused me fear, not because there was nothing really to fear about these beings, because the frequency was different. So I just felt that difference. That was it. It was just, wow, like the shock of what is going on here. But it was a way for me, again, to receive that contrast, to learn these lessons, to know, look, there's beings that are vibrating low. And when you bring your light and the work we can all of us do, the more we're peaceful within ourselves, the kind, love, gratitude, and we bring this with us and share it with the world and teach it to the ones around you are that light too, guess what? We all start vibrating high, vibrating high.
So if that was one of the lowest vibrations that you were picking up on, the highest would the highest be the melding with the oneness that you experienced when you were still in your near-death experience?
Yes, that was very high vibrational. Very, it's like again, like this light completely naked from all conditioning, all shades, all blocks. Wow, you're the pure light. And now all the clothing, all the shades, all the, like the onion. Having to all these years, that's the work that we do, go peel all these layers until you go back to the source, to the core of who you are, which is that light. So yes, when I had the near-death experience, I would just say went back to the core of the onion, just being pure source, pure essence. And then yeah, depending how many layers you have around yourself, then you will be less close to that nature of pure light. And yeah, when I encountered that spirit, oh my God, it was really scary. But it's just that, it was just a frequency that was very low. And then the beings of light said, as long as you keep yourself vibrating high, you don't need to fear. You just need to understand. It's about learning. It's about not keeping ourselves ignorant. So the more we learn, the fear goes away. The fear is just a way to show us, hey, something is like if you find a lion, what do? You pull away. So it was the same thing in the energetic field. It was like, whoa, what is going on? But once I understood, the fear went away because it's just created more compassion.
Right. Okay. We have a question from Natalie. How do you meditate? How do you meditate?
I love that you asked me that question because I have few different kinds of meditation. One of my favorite ways of meditation is a walking meditation. So who's the person that asked me again?
Natalie.
Oh, hi, the way I can look at you. So I do walking meditation, and I walk in a state of complete awareness. And when I walk, oh gosh, I go with the purpose of listening to every bird. I even can see how many I am counting, how many chirpings. I listen to the crickets. I hear my steps, and if there's some little rocks and I can hear my steps on the ground, wow, I pay attention to that. I feel the wind. I hear the trees making sounds with the leaves. I just go in complete awareness. Guys, this is so powerful that there was even a day, it was summertime, the leaves were not very much falling, just one or here there. And I'm walking in, and so it's safe. So I would just, where I know I can close my eyes, I walk very slow and I close my eyes. And at that moment, I felt how a leaf had broken from the branch and was falling. So it was that state of awareness, and the leaf fell. I'm like, wow, I felt the whole thing. And one day it was starting to rain. I didn't even know it was going to rain, and a drop fell, and I heard the drop of rain. And I felt how it crossed my entire head. So it's like having that much presence. So it feels incredibly well, because the more presence, the more awareness. So you start becoming aware of your actions, becoming aware of your feelings, becoming aware of how am I being today, what. So that's just incredible. And the other thing, this is very, very important. We have been taught to punish ourselves for everything. You're bad, you don't know what to do, you're doing it wrong. This has been our life in school with our parents all our life. No, 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 you don't do well. You don't do this right. So what I have learned, to praise myself for the good I do, not for what I don't. So say that I go in a walking meditation. Oh, a walking meditation, but that day my head was full of thoughts. So I came back to the house, and at that moment I realized, oops, I didn't hear any birds. I didn't feel any wind. I didn't hear anything. I don't punish myself for not hearing, not doing. I reward myself for having the awareness of not being aware. So what I am doing with this, I'm reprogramming myself to reward myself for my awareness. So when you do that, you become more aware, because it feels good. It feels gratitude for yourself. Oh, thanks for being aware. And then now you're reprogramming yourself to that like high current, that light frequency, that higher frequency of feeling well, feeling good, praising yourself, being state of gratitude. The other thing I do is that, say that I am having some negative thought or something, but because now I've been practicing awareness, I catch it pretty quick. Or say that I'm not even at that state of awareness yet, but I start working with my thoughts. Oh, I catch myself thinking negative. Then what I do at that moment is I invite, not that I'm bypassing nothing, say it's just whatever negative thought, because our mind is so full of so many negative stuff. What I do is I grab that at that moment. I remember something that is great, but something really simple, very simple. Say, oh, that cup of coffee I drank this morning was amazing. Oh, that shower I took was great. So what we're doing, we're bringing at that moment things that makes us feel great. And guess what? When we feel great, we invite gratitude. We feel gratitude for the things that makes us feel great. So we start teaching ourselves to go higher, to always be at that state of feeling well. And yeah, that's how I do. I also have in my YouTube channel, and I'm sharing lately, they are called meditations for daily stress, because the meditation has to be adapted to today's busy, stressful schedules. So not everybody has 15 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours to sit and meditate there. It's like, no, I don't have that time. But I said to the person, what if you just have a little note and write this note to yourself, just saying, I exist. Sticky notes everywhere. And the moment you read, I exist, you pause and you breathe. I exist. Wow. Just by doing that, you're giving yourself the possibility to pause. And I practice meditations like meditating with the birds. So now I program myself that I hear a bird and I'm like, oh, meditating with the rain. Oh, so I hear the rain and it brings me to meditate. So I'm creating all these short meditations that can help people to start reprogramming their mind to use nature, to use all the tools available to calm the mind. The moment we calm our mind, we're open. We're open to all connections. So when we're like a radio, it's like now I put my dial in the frequency where I can connect. So that was a long answer, but that's all the different things I try to do.
There's a question, Kay. What is your attitude towards death for yourself and your loved ones?
Oh, you know, I love that question, because one thing that the near-death experience I have had, I actually later in my life, I had another near-death, but it was short. So I don't mention it that much because it was more like, because I had so many out-of-body experiences, it felt more like it was short. I had a motorcycle accident. And again, when I had this motorcycle accident, the sense was like, I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel anything. I mean, even before I crashed, I was already outside. And I'm in the middle of the road feeling like, wow, okay, take me, I'm ready to go. See, so it was, to me, the fear of death was gone when I had my near-death experience. And I can tell this to you guys with the whole truth of my being, because I also had another experience when I was about 20 years old. I was almost raped and murdered, and because of the connection with the light. And again, that open channel, the moment this is happening, I look at the horizon and I say, today is a good day to die. I didn't even know how ready I was. I mean, I am in a situation where I'm about to be murdered. And I'm like completely surrendered to it. That's why I say when I surrender to death, I live. Because that moment, this is a long story, I can tell it some other day, but when I surrendered to that, the light came through. And the people that was about to commit this crime left. So this is amazing. So it's when things like that start happening, because we completely open ourselves and let the light do its work. And then it's when I realized I am not fearing death at all. But another thing, I went to live in a war zone for 3 years. So although I am not afraid to die, I am afraid, yeah, of the things they can do to you before you die. Because I remember thinking, oh gosh, I don't want to be tortured. I don't want to be raped. I don't want to be kidnapped and destroyed. Those things, yes. So always try to keep the mind in like the best place and not to have or to just hold those fears. Always inviting the light in the mind. But now it comes the other part. My mom passed 2 months ago. And although I know that she's in this place, I know how it feels. I know she's doing great. I know she's enjoying the light. Oh gosh, for us here, it hurts. Because guess what? I miss her. I wish she was here. We had plans. It was unexpected. It just happened. And it was really, really painful. And then it came this part where people expect from people like us that have had near-death experiences or have a spiritual transformative experiences to be this being that, oh, what, you're spiritual, you should not feel. What? Why would you cry? You? We were hoping you were the strongest. What? I have all these feelings. It hurts. I want her here. I miss her. I wish she was here. She was coming. She was going to visit. She will be always here at this time of the year. I want her here. So that was also this being one of the biggest teachings in my life, because that opens a whole new door for compassion. To learn to be gentle with ourselves, to learn to be kind. And I was in so much pain that there was a moment I asked the beings of light, what is all this pain for? What is all this suffering for? Oh guys, this was the most beautiful thing that's happened, because they said to me to claim the light. Same thing that happened when I tried to commit suicide, to claim the light. They said to me, when you feel that pain, don't push it away. Recognize it. See it for what it is. Because otherwise we're doing what is called a spiritual bypassing, thinking I'm a spiritual, I don't feel. No, it's here. They say, embrace it. You know why it's there? Because you love that person. So instead of pushing that away, you know that hole you feel in the chest? Fill it with light. Claim the light back. In any moment you feel that feeling of, that hole in the stomach, that hole in the chest, fill it with the light. So that's how I feel about death. I don't fear death. I know my mom is doing great. I have had a fearless life in the sense I have traveled the world. I've been in 56 countries of the world in my life. I travel alone. I've done all kind of incredible things because I don't fear death. But yeah, when somebody we love died, it hurts. Then what do we do with that? You are with love.
Sorry, I just want to go back to something that you said that I just can't let go of for a moment. You were almost raped and killed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But at the same time, you were surrendering to that moment and things just dissolved. The danger went away. Could you just speak to that a little bit more, please? Because that's extraordinary.
Okay, yes, I was for back. I guess I have time. Do I? Yes. This is a little bit of a story.
I'll give you the time.
So what happened is I had a boyfriend at the time. We went to visit this beautiful, beautiful beach. This is amazing how also the contrast. This is a beautiful place where terrible things are happening and we didn't know. And then we went there to do snorkel, and it was a really, this is in Santa Marta in Colombia, and it's like it was beaches that were like made by little coves. So they were separated by reefs. So to cross to every beach, you have to go like through all these, almost going in the water. It was beautiful, but it was hard to try to do it. But we were young, we were climbers. We could do all these things. And I have to tell you all this part of the story to just kind of understand what happened. So we went to one of the very last beaches, and we realized we cannot cross anymore because there was a big cliff with rocks going in the water. So at that point we decided, let's go back. And when we were about to go back, 3 men appeared. And this is incredible because the guy I was dating at the time, he was strong, he was muscly, he was like almost like Mr. America. And I was this scrawny little girl. So this is also how life, again, we go back to contrast, showed me that day that at that moment it didn't matter the stronger the muscle, it did not resolve the situation. What did it was to be open to the light. And you will see why. The moment they came into this beach, he was, no matter how big he was, nothing, how strong, how muscly, they overpowered us. They had knives. One of them had like a big sharp piece of glass. And they tied him in the back, pushed him in the sand, and they put this piece of glass in his neck. They were going to cut his neck. And I'm like, imagine the brutality of this stuff. And they already taken all our things. And he said, no, Ingrid, don't hurt her. Do not. And to that point, I never realized they were going to do anything else. I didn't even think about it. I was just in a state of terror. And he started to scream, leave her alone, don't hurt her. And they were about to cut him, and I turned my head because I didn't want to see. And the moment I turned my head, I see this horizon. And it was the sun was shining and the water looked like beautiful. At that moment, I went to that state of peace. Incredible, just amazing, from being in the horror to just joining the peace. And it's when I said, today is a good day to die. was the first thought that crossed my head. And then I'm standing there, and it's when I didn't, the fear was gone, guys. There was not fear, nothing. I didn't even have thoughts of thinking this could happen, this could not happen, nothing. And at that moment, the big guy was about 200 pounds. He pushed me in the sand, they tied my hands, and now I was lying on the ground, and this guy came on top of me. I couldn't even feel his weight. And then somehow I free my hand that was tied. I free the hand, and he's looking down because he's about to do his thing. And then I grab his face, and I put his eyes directly in my eyes. And imagine a person that is about to be raped, such a state. And I was so peaceful. And I said to him, with just very loving words, but strong, I said to him, dear, you do not want to do this to me. And the guy pushed back. And he said, we are leaving. We are leaving now. And the other two didn't even like fight the guy. Okay, okay. And the three guys left. And then at that moment I stood up and I untied the guy and I said, we have to go. And we, of course, we couldn't go that way because they left that way, and we couldn't cross this cliff, so we had to climb. We were young, we had strong bodies, we started to climb. When we get to the top, the guys came back looking for us. And the guy I was with at the time, we were holding hands. I said, come down, they're coming back. Then this guy was a guy that was atheist. He didn't believe in anything. And we are up there hiding in these bushes, and he held my hand and he says, how did you know? How is this possible? How all this happened? And I said, shh, just pray. Then we're there, and the guys looked for us and didn't find us and left. So, but what happened is the incredible thing, the whole purpose of this teaching of life, when I made contact with that guy, eye to eye, we became one. There was no conditioning, guys. This guy was not that. So I could see all the layers of his conditioning dissolve. So at that second, it was so fast. The guy recognized the oneness and he pulled away. But guess what? He was so conditioned that I knew that would come. That soon he'll realize what just happened. And then it's when I knew they're going to come back. But that was the incredible teaching of that experience, is knowing when you're in the light, you're more powerful than the muscly guy, than the guns, than anything else. Who won that battle that day? It wasn't the strong muscle, my friend. It was the scrawny little girl that was connected with the light. And later we learned from the police that we were so lucky because they were already investigating a few murders that had happened in that beach. And so it's incredible. And the friend I was with, this changed his life. Of course, for him, it's like, I said to him, if you didn't believe in guardian angels, this is the moment. And for this guy, life completely changed from that day on. So this is the power of the light, guys. This is incredible. And this is the power of the quiet mind, the power of connection, the power of knowing you are that light. And when you already have done the work, you're asking me about meditation, when we start creating a life of awareness, a life of connection, then now we become really powerful beings. We are really powerful, we just don't know. And that's what is going to integrate the world, not the guns, not the war, not the attack. No, that just creates more separation, more division.
Thank you for that. I'm so glad you shared that with us. Eric has a question. Why are we incarnate rather than stay at the vibration level where the beings of light are?
Because that's the thing, and I can say to you this with my own experience, because we are not aware that we are that awareness. And how I can have the proof of that, because when I was a child and I came back with all this awareness, this all happened to me in a natural way, but I did not have the self-awareness. I have the awareness, yeah, I know all this, but I did not know the root of it. So it's like we can have the awareness, but not being fully aware, where is this coming from? So yeah, I was little, I have all these. So I would just say, first I was a little child with awareness, and all the contrast brought me to realize, to become aware of my own awareness, to become a self-realized being. So later I was just, like I would say, we are all still a child. I am a child, but now I am aware of my awareness. So even when I was a child, I would be like, oh gosh, it's starting to become arrogant, because I would look at others and say, they know nothing. What is with these people? So you're a being that is already in that place where you think you know too much, but you're not being compassionate. You don't know where all these gifts are coming really from. And life and all these contrasts. So what happened with the human experience is the experience that offers us the biggest contrast, which in reality, it sounds pretty painful. And I've gone through a lot of stuff like all of us do. And we wish it wasn't that way. But if it wasn't for all that contrast, I would not have hit that space of realizing, oh, I get what is all this for. Now I understand. If it wasn't, and we don't always have to suffer. That's why the more we practice awareness, if we teach our children from very young age to be aware, to have connection, to meditate. Maybe other sufferings come from a school thinking they're different, but then we teach them all that. But the more we become aware beings, the less we feel that challenges are sufferings, because we don't see challenges anymore as obstacles, we see them as opportunities. And that's what happened even in my experience. I can tell you from my own experience, even with my mom passing, with all that pain, but it had so much awareness that, with the point she just passed 2 months ago, and I don't feel the like, wow, I'm in the state of grieving, that I'm dying, that no, it's more the state of like feeling it with love, feeling it with light, using all that awareness. I see all the obstacles as opportunities. So wow, life become like, wow, this is a gift and this is a gift. Oh, and the moment I have the head under the water, of course, it's not that I like it, but I can get it out faster because I recognize I am in a challenge right now. And instead of staying in the challenge, I can always ask God, again, like I mentioned before, please help me see because I cannot see. That's my prayer. Say, God, please help me see because I cannot see. Help me see what this is for. Guide me to the truth. Guide me to the light. And then, wow, because I ask in that way and don't stay in the suffering, don't stay as a victim, now I get an answer because I'm looking for an answer that get me out of that situation. So actually the human experience is amazing because it's the only one that offers this contrast.
Right. Well, I was writing down some of your phrases as you were speaking earlier, and one was, nothing has happened to me, but it has happened for me, which segues nicely to the question that we have from Ruth. But you're absolutely right. I mean, if you see the challenges really as opportunities, as ways to grow, rather than as there to become burdens and we become completely overwhelmed and we completely stressed out, it changes the perspective completely. And the amount of energy you can then go sort of mount up on top of the issue and really work it, rather than feeling as though you're absolutely buried by it because it's overwhelming.
And you start finding solutions and finding the way out because you ask the question.
But of course, once you, having had the experience that you've had, where you've actually been to the other side, as it were, and you have an understanding and an awareness that most of us here do not have, it makes perfect sense. But of course, when people don't have that belief system, they're going to feel overwhelmed. It's only when you can rise above it, knowing that there's more to this, that you can then find the energy. But that's the message, isn't it? Is to be able to communicate that so that people take life as a series of challenges to grow from, as opposed to things to flatten us and to destroy us.
And that's the work of all of us that are awakening and are having this awareness. And that was always the way how I pass it to others. But this is the other thing, and this is very important. When I had this big awakening, like 10 years ago, like I said before, when I was a child, it just happened. But that now I was aware. I became aware that I am an aware being. So now I am more like an awakened being. I cannot say, oh, I'm the full awakened. I don't know where I am in my process. Who knows? And it don't matter. But I am more self-aware. And then I'm working with organizations like NASA, like the Navy, and I'm with these people. And there's a moment I asked the beings of light, now I have this full connection again. And I said, I wanted to spread it to the world. Imagine you now know these things you want. How can everybody know this? This is cool, because now I don't have to have so much sufferings or nothing. I have this clarity. You want to give it. You want to share it. And I said to them, what can I do or say to these people for them to understand? And you're going to love this answer, because they said to me, do or say nothing. The light of your awareness is all they need. Because sometimes life is not about what I go or say, or because this is the problem. They said to me, Ingrid, your path is the path of gentleness. You're not here to convince anybody about anything, because that's what creates separation. That's what creates war. Be that light. Be the embodiment of that light. Be that compassion. Be that love. Be that joy, that happiness, that light. And the day you need to say something, it will come. The day you need to act, like say this talk in this presentation, it will happen. But there's many people not prepared for it. So don't go do or say anything, because they're not going to understand. It's going to feel heavy. But be that light. Be that being that you are. And I would do it. And you know what became my most powerful mantra? You're going to laugh about it, but this is amazing, and all of us can do it. My most powerful mantra became to see people and say, how are you doing today? And with true intention. My words were true. How are you doing today? People would just look at me. And I would connect with anybody. I would cross the corridors of the agencies, and I was always in the joy. And people would stop, even the more grumpy people would just stop and say hi. And people would tell me, you know everything you know everybody in the agency. And I'm like, no, I don't. It's our attitude. It's our light. So it's when we start really talking our walk. Is the doing that come from being? Is the talking that come from being? Because if I'm saying one thing and I'm acting differently, then what is that I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely. Ruth's question is, if everyone is light and things happen for us, not to us, what motivates us to work to relieve the suffering of others?
What motivates us to just get to that point, to realize that, wow, what if I have such awareness that I'm realizing that I don't need to suffer, that others don't need to suffer? What if I could teach others? This motivates me. Like, I love to do this, guys, to the point that I quit my other job as a scientist that I loved and I did for almost 30 years, because this is what motivates me to the fullest. How can I show all these other people that they are the light, that you have that inner power, that you are that being of creation, that you, wow, this motivates me like completely. There's this other thing. I put this analogy, which I think is really pretty, and it's like, how can we regain our inner power? How can we do anything? People ask me, how can I do anything? I'm just but a person. How can I help with the peace in the world? What can I do? Then I put this analogy, this example. Say that you have a castle, just a big castle. And you see that the castle there's a mess. Every room in the castle is messy. This is a disaster. And one day you make that decision. Wow, that's a very important one. I'm going to organize this castle. Because if you don't make that decision, then okay, you continue living like that. But there's when I said, when you see the problems of the world as a whole, when you see the problem of the world from the collective, you disempower yourself and you lose the battle. So the analogy goes to this. You see the castle. And that very day, yeah, okay, you make this decision. But guess what? The moment you think you can fix this castle now, in one morning, in one day, no, you're so overwhelmed. You already lost the battle. I'm not doing anything. I mean, really? Forget it. You go back at your bed and take a nap. But what if at that moment I said, what if I start room by room? What if I cannot even do this room. There's too much mess. What if I go corner by corner, space by space, and you clear that space and you feel again like, oh, I did it. Woo, this feels good. And then you show other person, look, I did it. You can do it. Come on, I help you. Guess what? You're becoming the light for that other person. Oh yes, I did it too. Let's invite someone else. And now you start helping each other while you realize the kitchen is done. See, that's when you regain all your inner power. And you start realizing, I am this powerful being for myself, for my husband, for my son, for my coworkers, for my family, for my neighborhood. Oh, now this is how you started to break up with the suffering of the world. But making that first decision and starting with that little corner.
Very nice, thank you. Paula has a question. Are you still in touch with the beings of light?
Yes, the connection came full. Like I said, about 10 years ago when I had that big awakening, and I just playing the light back, turn on that switch. And that, it came completely on. I receive teachings all the time, almost every day. And so I keep a journal. And what I'm doing now is I created a series of short videos. I share one like every week where I just share like 5 minutes teaching, just to make it easy and quick, because I receive teachings all the times and they're really, really powerful, really beautiful. Like one of the last teachings, they said to me, Ingrid, you don't imagine how grateful humans would be if they realize that for you to exist, for you to be this, trillions and trillions and trillions of subatomic particles have to be in agreement. They said, Ingrid, you are a divine intention. All of you, Eric, Mike, Carlotta, Ruth, Helen, Linda, all of us, we are a divine intention. So now even when I drink a glass of something, this tea, I'm like, oh, God, for this tea to exist? This is a divine intention. So that's how I see things. It's how I see nature. That's how I perceive things. So everything becomes so sacred, so beautiful, so amazing. So these are the teachings I'm constantly receiving. Just wow, things that bring us to Bible, and very easy teachings, things that are really easy to share, and that really bring us to be in that space of gratitude.
There's a comment here from Eva. Thank you so much. This goes back to when you were talking about your mother's passing. This gives me so much hope as my mother is slowly transitioning overseas. I love what you said about the power of love. Bless you. So grateful you gave me a big gift today.
Oh.
And then Paula asks another question. When in your NDE you had no sense of yourself as Ingrid, what did you sense yourself as?
Just as a being of light, just as light, like presence, like, you know, guys, there was a movie called Cocoon. I don't know if you guys know this movie. It was about aliens, and it was, I think, 80s. And this was amazing. I'm seeing this movie with my sisters. And there's a moment in which the aliens rip the skin, the human skin off, and we're ripping the skin off this light. These beings were made of like light. And I just look at my sisters and I'm like, it just came out of me like that. I'm like, oh, that's what we are. We are beings of light. Of course, they look at me like, what are you talking about? Especially those days when nobody knew these things. And I'm like, wow, that's what we are. So that's what I always just realize of myself. I am the light. I am the light.
Flora has a question. How to make sense of betrayal and hurt that's been done to us by another person in our human life? Can we still love that person and risk being hurt again?
I mean, there's different things that we can do. There's even people that if we feel that, and if we still have the conditioning in our mind that that person can hurt us again and things like that, then we take distance. This other mistake, that thing that, oh, because you're spiritual, you have to be close to the person that hurt you. No, who said that? No, we can take our distance and we can take our time and we can think clearly. I don't feel well. It's self-love. When you stop somebody from mistreating you. So at that moment, I walk away. No, look, I don't appreciate that. And I can send to that person all my love, all my life, but I'm not going to allow that person to hurt me. If a child is doing something wrong, you're not going to praise that. You will go to the child and say, hey, that is not done that way. You're hurting yourself, you're hurting others. And if the person is not open to listen, so that person maybe will have to go through their own hurts and their own trials to learn the lesson. But sometimes we need to separate ourselves and create that space. Then over time we will learn, okay, what was this for? What was this experience for with this person? What is happening here? But we need sometimes to create that space. Even if that means that we separate ourselves from this person. You look, I have this is some experience I have, which is amazing, because sometimes we don't realize and we cannot see it, especially if it's too painful. This is just a sample situation to kind of give a little reference. But there was a time where there was a guy that would come to our house to mow the lawn. And every time this person came, and he was doing it for years, every time he came, he had to complain about something. Oh my God, if this person was full of complaint, I'm like, every single time. And it was annoying. And one day he left and I was walking and I asked the being so liar, finally, what is with this guy? I'm about to fire this guy. I cannot stand his complaint. What is he complaining about? And it's when he said, you guys are not going to believe this. They said, he complains because you complain. What? So they made me aware of my own complaint. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be big complaint, a small complaint. Complaint is complaint. And then at that moment, I became aware of my own complaint. What is, and I started to be the observer of myself. Where is that I'm complaining? I'm going to tell you something miracle. After that day, the guy kept coming. He's been coming for the other few years. Guess what? He never complained again. Because that's how life goes. It is showing us through contrast what we need to learn. And sometimes we cannot see it and we go blaming everybody else. But I stopped. It was a situation the other day happened to me with someone, and at the end I said, oh, I understand. I'm projecting this over this person so this person can give me a teaching.
So in other words, people are mirrors to us. They're mirrors, well, other people mirror back to us ourselves.
Yeah, so, and I understand when we cannot see it at the moment, so I go back to the beginning. If we cannot see that, if we cannot understand that, we cannot have clarity, sometimes it's better to distance ourselves. So we're not causing to ourselves more suffering or more confusion. So the possibility is that, then we do it. But it is beautiful how life presents to us in that sense. I was amazed when I received that teaching. I'm like, what? Wow, okay.
I have a question regarding your NDE. When you were there, you were saying that you became aware that this was not the first time that you had left a body. There was something about the situation that, you know, seeing yourself as a little girl floating in the water tank wasn't a new sensation. You had left your body, other bodies presumably, before. Do you have any sense of, so hence, you know, reincarnation, do you have any sense of the kinds of incarnations that you might have had? Did that flash through your mind at the time?
Yes, I actually have, later in my life, is when I had, at that moment I knew I had been an eternal being and that this has happened many times, but I didn't have at that moment the view of these other experiences or bodies or beings, nothing. I just knew. But later in my life, guys, it was amazing. I was about 17 years old. And I didn't even know something about past life regressions. None of that. That was not something even known back then. But this started to just be in a study and stuff. And I went to a hypnosis event. And when I went to this hypnosis event, I was picked from the public to go up there and just be hypnotized. And it's when I realized, wow, this is not new for me. I know what this is. But I didn't fall into a state of numbness. I fell into a state of awareness, actually. And then because I have had so many out-of-body experiences, I just kind of pretty much came out of my body. And I'm floating in the whole space, looking at everybody. And I go, wow, what is this? Is this the hypnosis thing? But if I've done this, so I was very interested in knowing more. So I went to meet a psychologist that was an expert in hypnosis. And when the guy went to hypnotize me, you guys don't imagine what happened. He went to do the hypnosis. Oh, you go with a question, blah. Okay, I wanted to ask about my health because I always have so many health problems. And then why I have all these health problems. So I went to the hypnosis and suddenly I was not seeing myself. I was seeing his life when he was a child. And this was a person I met that day. And I started to say to him, oh, yes, you're a child. And he's like, what? And I said, you had these traumas and this, and he was, how is this possible? You don't, and I said, shh, silence. I need to tell you. And I started to see his life and his traumas and, oh my God. And I said, now that you know, you can heal. This guy was such in awe that he sent me to a guy that was working and researching past life. So he got me an appointment with that guy, and in the very first time, I had access to past lives. And it's when I was suffering from very, very bad respiratory problems. I was born like that. My mom, when she was pregnant of me, at the time they didn't have awareness that they smoke, the baby will be affected. So my mom smoked and drank coffee during the whole pregnancy, and I was born with respiratory problems. I was a very sick child. And with the drowning, it went worse. So I had respiratory problems all those years until that day. So I went to this place and I saw myself, guys. I'm going to tell you a couple of things that are amazing. I saw myself in many lives, starting dying as a prisoner in a dungeon from tuberculosis. And from there, I started to see back all the lives I died from respiratory problems, because that's the question I asked. And I saw myself dying from tuberculosis a few times until the day that all started, which was about 5,000 years ago. I died. I was a warrior, and I was with a spear. It went through my lungs. And guess how I died? I drowned in my own blood. I had the whole clarity of that. I'm like, wow. And when I had the awareness of all those lives and what had happened with all my respiratory problems, that very day I healed. I had chronic bronchitis, asthma, all these respiratory problems you can imagine, gone until today.
Well, you know, that brings, okay, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, there's another thing besides that. Like a few years ago, I went for, I had a kidney stone. Who knows why is that? I haven't asked. I went for a kidney stone, and they did, I guess it was to know this, they did an X-ray. So I wasn't looking for anything, just, oh, I have this stone. And they did an X-ray, and wow, they scared when they saw that I had a scar in a lung.
Whoa. Guess
what? That was the lung where I knew that a spear went through. And they could not explain how it's possible that I have a scar in that lung. So they were afraid at the beginning, thinking it was cancer or something. So for 3 years, I had to have a series of scans. And they said the only way you could have had this scar if you ever had tuberculosis. And I said, yes, but not in this life. And it's the place where that spear went through. So that's incredible.
But actually, it speaks to Dr. Brian Weiss's work, the MD, the American MD, I think he's in New York, when he put a lady under hypnosis and basically trying to help her find a cause of something. And she told him what had happened with his baby son, who ended up dying. And in those days, there was no internet, nobody knew anything, no social media. So that came to mind. The other thing is Michael Newton, who's since passed, had a client who was coming into his office with a complaint of a terrible pain in his side. He regressed him, couldn't find the cause in childhood, regressed him even further. It ended up that he was a World War I soldier who was bayoneted. As soon as they established that that was the cause, the symptom went away. So everything that you're saying to me, and I'm not well read in this subject at all, but I'm trying to become more so, is sort of ringing, it's echoing with here, you know, Brian Weiss, Michael Newton, Jim Tucker, University of Virginia Perceptual Studies, where they've done work on children's past life memories, and scars, birthmarks, echo something from another lifetime. So that's really interesting. If we accept that as being valid, that suggests that there's some sort of corporal physical memory that incarnates over and over again.
Yeah, we keep that energetic trade.
So if there's a physical fingerprint or the physical trace that just follows you through, there has to be an emotional.
Oh, yes, yes.
There has to be, there have to be other correlates that we haven't really explored yet. If there is.
Angie, to the point that our uniqueness, I am not saying that I become an artist or a doctor. No, the core of our personality. You know how you see a little baby and you say, wow, that baby has a personality. Guess what? That thing, that little spark of who you are stays with you, the same thing for lives. And the change in that is very gradual, very small, only happening with awakening. When you awaken to the realization of who you truly are, there's a very change there. But yeah, that the core of it, even that personality brings its uniqueness, because this is just a club. We're just changing, I would just say, we're just changing costume.
Right. We have a question from Gary. When you left your body, were there any sounds or music?
No, there was only silence. Silence. I experienced a state of absolute silence, but throughout my life, I have experienced incredible sound. There's been many times. There was a time I was sleeping. I woke up in the middle of the night because I heard music. I'm like, oh, I thought my son had turned on the radio or something. I'm like, wow, that's weird, 3 a.m, and I hear this music. And when I opened my eyes to just now complete awareness, no, guys, it was something majestic. It was like amplified, like it was the sound of every blade of grass, every bird, every leaf, the wind. It just created this celestial music. So once we just go in tune with other levels, we can hear, sometimes I just hear the sound of a bell, and I've been hearing the voice of the beings of light and all things throughout my life. But yeah, I mean, no, I went to that place at the place of absolute silence. Oh God, guys, that was the most amazing experience, because it's the silence of the mind. And that's what I try to bring now to people with meditation, with walking in awareness. How can we invite silence, calming the mind? Oh, that's just so refreshing.
We have a question from Natalie. She says, I would like to do a regression. Where should I go to do one? I wanted to give that to you first.
I don't know, because I don't work directly with that. That just happened in my life. I have that awareness. And sometimes people ask me if a regression is absolutely necessary. I said, it all depends. I say to people, sometimes it's not necessary to go back. If you want to, go for it. But I said, mostly look at the life you're living today. The life that you live today is the answer of your whole existence. How you feel, how you treat others, how you feel others treat you. That awareness, the life you live today, the sicknesses that you have in your body, everything is the answer. Then if you don't really want to go, sometimes the pain of remembering past stuff, just become quiet. The more we start working in quieting the mind, calming the mind, quieting the mind, listen to the birds, the wind, talking slower, giving yourself time to rest, to walk with nature, the answers come. And this is been in my life. The answers come. I know things. The knowing comes because now you're open to the answers. You're open to the truth.
Let me ask you a question. Often people who talk about their NDEs, write about the subject, will say that time and space doesn't exist in that realm the way it does here. Fair enough. But at the same time that multiple lives are many lives can be happening at the same time. It's not linear. So here's my question to you. The experience you had with your X-ray, being able to see that there was a scar there that they seemed to put together with tuberculosis, not in this lifetime, that suggests that there is a passage of time there, that perhaps your past lives were indeed past. How do you reconcile that with this idea that things are happening on multiple dimensions at the same time?
You know, I don't have the absolute answer for that. I don't have the clarity, but I know that we are multidimensional beings. That I know for sure. What I mean with this, and I experience it, as we are this physical body with this awareness, with this body of emotions, with this physical body, we also are the spirit. So there was a moment in which one day I am sleeping, deep asleep, and I heard a bell, cling, 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 cling. And I woke up. I'm like, what is this bell? And when I wake up, so I'm going to give you the example of the ocean, because no way else I can explain this. So say you have the ocean. And at that moment when I heard the bell, I woke up in the depthness of the ocean. So at that moment, guess what? The depthness, the deepest of the ocean doesn't know what is happening at the surface. You ever go to the water, or even in a pool, if you go deep in the pool, wow, it's calm, even though there's wind out there, there's play out there, the water is moving the surface, that the depthness doesn't know. So I woke up, and when I woke up, I realized, wow, there was not even a sense of Ingrid. There was no sense of what was happening. So say that there's an ocean, and at that depthness, there was no sense of what happening at the surface, and say that I call surface the physical Ingrid, the personality of Ingrid, the wave, the sense of separation. I'm this wave out here. No, now I woke up and there was not even that sense. And I heard the bell again. Bling, 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 bling. Oh, I woke up, what? What does it mean? Where am I awaking now? And I am awake and still no sense of nothing that is related with Ingrid. This is hard to explain, but it was this sense of like, wow. So to give you the example, I had to hear this bell about 5 times before I reached the place in that ocean to sense that there was something at the surface. So in oceanography, we call it the thermocline, the level where you already know that there's something called surface. Wow, at that moment, like, wow, yeah, there's something called Ingrid. Bling, bling. Oh, yeah, there's kind of an Ingrid. And then I woke up here, and I'm like, wow, what was that? There is actually, yes, now I am this Ingrid, this body. Wow, what was all this? And it's when I realized I am that presence. I am that multidimensional being. And some people give the example, I saw it the other day really nicely, like, you know the Russian dolls?
Yes.
You have the doll outside, the other doll, the other doll, the other doll, the other doll. Say that you are all those dolls. Same thing.
At the same time?
At the same time, yes.
It just reminds me of the movie Inception, if anybody's seen that, where there's a sort of a dream within a dream kind of thing. And it's all happening at the same time, but they're all different frequencies.
Exactly. So that's what I experience. I experience the sense of who I am at all different levels of being.
Contemporaneously, we can be all of these different levels at the same time, but each one feels unique as you're experiencing them. Interesting. Okay. Before we move on to the next question, Natalie, I did want to say that I believe Stephanie Kraft, who is actually with us, she's one of our members, she is a hypnotherapist, and I believe she does regressions. Are you there, Stephanie? Maybe she was.
I'm right here.
You do regressions, do you not?
Yes, I've been a hypnotherapist for 16 years. Anybody can come see me. I'm right here in the area.
Actually, that's how I met Stephanie, because I went for one a few years back. So
I'm glad Stephanie's here to answer that question.
So Natalie, if you want to get in touch with me, I can put you in touch with Stephanie. All right, let's move on to the next question. We have a question here from Claire. Do you think that you studied marine biology because of your early connection with water and your NDE?
The answer is yes. Because people always ask me, they will come and say, shouldn't you just afraid of water, terrorized because you drown? And I said, no, the absolute opposite. Because drowning brought me to see the light. So for me, I never stayed in the trauma of the drowning. For me was everything else. So after that, if you see the parallel in my life, I didn't just become a marine biologist. I became a scuba diver. And I became master scuba diver, and I went diving in caves, in deep waters, in like at night, just because I wanted to look for the depthness of everything. And that's how my career became, my life, my studies, the way I live my life is like that parallel, like I wanted to be in the depthness. So yes, that's why I chose that career. For me, water was the way to awaken, was the way to the light. So yeah, for me, water is very, very important. And I am, in my symbol, I am water. So yeah.
Ah, so your birth sign is a water sign?
Yes.
What are you?
I am a Scorpio.
Scorpio, interesting.
The mystical.
With you for hours, Ingrid. I have so many questions. I'm going to try to wrap it up because we have a few more questions as well. But you did talk about, you know, when you were on the brink and you were thinking about suicide, when you were super unhappy in your life. Just talk to us about what happened there that changed things for you. Did the beings of light intercede? What happened exactly?
Yes, at that very moment, like I said, I think it would not have happened if I didn't ask for the light. If I didn't ask for that help, I said, it was the moment I think I prayed with the deepest of my heart. But like I said to you, why the prayer was answered? Because I didn't pray for things to change. Oh, change the situation, change me house, change me husband, change me life, change me. No, it was, please God, help me see. Help me see. What is all this for? What are you trying to show me that I cannot see? I was blind. Like in the Bible, I was blind and I was asking for eyes to see. So that was amazing because it was so deep, it was so profound. I was just like, don't change, just show me what is all this for. Because that's another thing I have learned from my near-death experience. For everything else, I learned that it's not the experience, but the purpose behind the experience. What is this for? So that's when I just went asking these questions. So it was pretty much like going from the deep pool to get that movement of going up to look for answers. And yes, when I woke up the next morning with the absolute clarity, with the knowing, you have to look for help. And that for me was a sign, especially for me, because different in my personality, I was a person that never looked for help. Oh, I can do everything. I'm strong. I have gone through life with I don't need anybody. But at that moment, that fell away. I knew that was the answer. You need help. And then now imagine when I go and I look online and I find this doctor wrote his name on a piece of paper, went to the cafeteria to talk to another person. Didn't even know. I mean, I just sat there and I'm like, I just don't feel well. This is the first time I'm even talking to anybody. And she's like, I know this psychologist with the same name I had written on the paper. And then went and met another person, talk about it. And I said, oh, I know this psychologist. 3 sources, same person. What is this telling you? Okay, I better listen. So I went to this doctor and I knew it was incredible. The moment I started just to talk and realize this person is listening, that was the breakthrough. The other breakthrough was that this person never, ever even make a face of judgment. anything I said. Of course, at the beginning, I'm not going to say, I see this or that, because you're crazy. No, I didn't know this guy. So I went slowly, slowly. And the more open he showed himself, there was a moment I talk about spirits. See what the guy said? Nothing. I talk about my near-death experience. He was open. Oh, gosh. Oh, imagine what a relief. I've been trapped with I've been holding my own stories for 40 something years, never been able to talk to anybody. And now there was somebody. Wow. So of course, that was the breakthrough. That was the healing that happened in my life. Somebody that, and then I learned my lesson of learning to listen to others. True listening. When we do that, we can help heal.
One of the things that stands out to me in your story, you were 3, and you said that after your near-death experience, you came back with some gifts. Can you talk about those briefly?
Yeah, I mean, some were like, the capacity of. Give me 1 second, baby. I'm busy. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I thought I had it enough there. So that one was just the capacity of like being able to read, write, just these things. But other than that, it was imagine being able to just connect with the beings of light and see auras. And from the things I learned later, because I didn't know other people could not do these things. So later in my life, I also realized that from the age of 4, I started to have visions of the future. So by the age of 4, I knew I was going to be a marine scientist. When I was 5, I told my dad, I'm going to be a marine scientist. Okay. So I wasn't even born in the ocean. I was born in the mountains. But they brought me to see the ocean, and I knew that was what I was going to do. When I was 9 years old, I had a vision. I saw who my husband was going to be. And it was a person I met 23 years later. When I was 12, I knew that I was going to work for NASA. And I knew even the technology that was not even invented yet, I was going to work with. And just many things like that. So I just had all these openness. I just had this channel that was open to know, to communicate, to feel, to sense, very sensitive. And the beings of life, this is the other thing. They said in your life, they said things and opportunities and your experience will talk for yourself. And they said people will be put in your path, not just to help you, but things you will help, people you will help. And they said they will be witnesses in all the things that happen in your life. And this is being very important, because what happened in the beach was a witness, not just a witness, but it changed the life of this person. I have had many other experiences like that. They are all in the book. There was an experience in which sounds really great, but there was a witness. I was in a scene where we being robbed, and guys, I disappeared from the scene. And the person that was there with me, he said, it don't matter. They robbed me of everything. Nothing matters, Ingrid. The only thing that really matters is that you were not here. Guess what it did for that person? It changed the course of his life. You cannot witness something like this and not change. This person became from that day on a spiritual and a teacher and a guy. So this is amazing. And they said for all the things that are happening, my near-death experience, the witnesses, my mom and my sister remembers it same as me. She said, I will never forget that day. She was 4. And same thing, many of the experiences, there was always somebody witnessing all these events, all these miracles. So yeah, it's just incredible how all these navigates in life. So
yeah. Paula has a question.
Well, I just wanted to share something. You mentioned time and space, and I'm reading something right now by a scientist who is saying that, and this isn't really new, I guess, but he's saying that because of entanglement, which is where, you know, subatomic particles, if they're together at one time and they're separated, if something happens to the one, the other one is affected instantaneously. So what he says this is showing is that there is no time and space because it's instantaneous.
Yeah,
I mean,
everything is
sorry.
here now.
Pardon me?
Say that again.
It's like everything is here and now.
Yeah, right now. That's what he's saying. That, in other words, the world we see out there is not out there, it's in here. Or, you know, and like Ingrid said, and so that the science is now sort of going in that direction, or at least the way I understand it. Just a thought.
Yes, yes, no, very, 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 very important, to the point that what you say, Paul, is like, if you make a decision, say I am in this regression day at that doctor, the moment I see something that happened 5,000 years ago, the presence is fixed. So that means that did the paths change? Did everything change? Everything is right there and now. Otherwise, there would not be possibility to fix the 5,000 years of history up to that point. So everything is here and now. So that moment of awareness will fix a whole timeline, which is not timeline, because we also have the knowing that we could talk about time that goes in the horizontal and in the vertical. The horizontal time is, say that there's a ruler and it's what I plan now. I go to college, I have all my milestones, this is my horizontal. But the moment, just to give an analogy, but the moment you have, wow, a moment of awareness, a moment of connection, a moment of clarity, a chunk of time in that ruler is not needed anymore, because this is meant to give you all these challenges to get to this point. But if you have a moment of big awareness, oh yeah, this part is not needed, now you go to the next. See, so that's, oh yeah, the time is incredible. There's so much to talk about that too.
Time and zeitgeist. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a question about COVID. So what is your sense? Have you spoken, asked the light beings of light about the pandemic that we're living through?
You know, now talking about time and that question, when I asked the beings of light, at some point I asked, what is the purpose of time and experience? Involving all of it. And these will answer all the questions, because they said the purpose of time and experience is to help you remember who you truly are.
Oh.
Even if it's COVID, if it's this, if it's that, if it's the suffering with the mom, with the father, with the husband, with the job, the purpose of time and experience is to help you remember who you truly are.
So let's open that up for a second and remind us of who we truly are on a global level. So basically, can you connect some dots? I mean,
the true nature of who we are is that what we've been talking, and that experience that all these near-death experiences have had, and we all do have it, is the place of complete connection, that we call oneness, that we call source, that we call love. You know, the beings of light told me one time, you think that humans have children just because of procreation purposes? I said, no, I don't know. They said, no. They said, every time anybody has a child, is the incredible opportunity to bring you back to remember love. That's true connection. oh my God, what? And how many people miss that opportunity?
Right. But also, it reminds me of when you were telling us about the scene on the beach with the two guys and you were with your boyfriend and you were about to, be assaulted. And you looked into the guy's eyes and said something to him. But at that moment, there was a connection. And when there's a connection, you said, there's no war. There wouldn't be war if there were a connection.
Yes. They said to me, where do you think, where is God? In the space between. You love your child. What is that love? Wow, it's everywhere. Is that space between? You hug somebody. Wow, where is that? Wow, some call it soma, some call it the energy of love, that things that permeates everything, is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, always present. That's what we truly are. That's the essence of us. They said to me, you think that people eat just to have a body healthy? No. What do you think is the purpose of a meal together? To reunite, to gather. Why we enjoy the most eating together? Wow, let's make a body. There's always have to be some food because we are gathering. What do you think? Even they gave me the example of Christ and the disciples. It was not the food. It was the connection. It was the love around the food. So what happened when we start now sitting by ourselves with the phone in the table or eating alone in the couch and all the family disgregated? There's more suffering. There's more separation. There's less communication, more problems. So all this COVID is the result of that.
What it reminds me of is that we humans are a little bit thick. We need a lot of reminding. We need a lot of nudging back. We just don't get it. And we have to constantly be pushed in the right direction.
And this COVID and all this is bringing us back to the place of be at home. Be with your family, but people, many are not understanding it. But look at all the efforts we do to reunite. There's something called Zoom where we can get together. So the power of wanting to be together, oh my God, look what it brought us to. We have this thing where we can all see each other. So we want to be together. So who's lying?
We're going to have to wrap it up because I've taken almost an hour and a half of your time.
But this has been amazing. Oh my God, I would like just to meet everybody.
The hand analogy, I just love that you take one finger, but each one is unique, and one finger by itself isn't going to do very much, but the hand can do so much. I mean, yeah. I think that to me encapsulates it beautifully. And I've written down so many things. I mean, I could quote you. I have about 20 different quotes written down here of what you said as far as just absolutely being so meaningful and so important. One is forgiveness. There's nothing to forgive. I guess there's nothing to forgive if you think about it in terms of challenges and opportunities, though people do hurt us. So it's hard to keep the two, reconcile the two.
Yes. All this, before we go, I would just leave you with this last thing, and is that I have discovered through time and through teachings I heard, but I have experienced it with myself. There's really three types of giving. And life will bring us there. The giving I do for the sake of me. The giving I do for the sake of Ingrid. Oh God, yes, I give, The gift I do, the more I evolve, so now, wow, there's kind of other people, no? The gift I do for the sake of others. Oh, now I'm more altruistic. I'm getting up there. But we reach the point where is the giving that we do for the sake of God, for the sake of love, for the sake of source. Oh gosh, getting there. That's what this COVID is trying to teach us. Wow. what if we just go there? That place of love. So thank you for being here so much.
Everybody, bye now.
Bye. Thank you guys. I love you all. Thank you.